Before the video starts, I should say that I forgot to mention, if you're interested in the tool that I described in this video, just go down to the description and click on the link to get yourself a copy. All right, that's it. Enjoy. Hi, I'm Aldo. Welcome to Plays the Thing, the channel where I share my experiences prepping and playing tabletop role-playing games, and today's episode is just a little bit different. I'm going to be sharing the fruits of my labor as I decided to use Claude AI to help me create a resource for playing a game that I really love online. The game is Dr. Mike Deasing's Stalwart 85, and the resource that I created is a Foundry VTT sheet that will allow you to play this wonderful little game online. So why don't we head over to the screen to see how it works. All right, so here we are at my Foundry screen, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a sheet and start building a character. I won't finish the character, but in going through each of the sections of the character sheet, you'll get a sense of the sheet's functionality. So here we go. I am opening a new sheet and I'm going to call this character the Mole. Now, the Mole is actually the very first character that I created for Champions way back in the early 80s when I started playing that game. And I was watching a lot of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends back then. And the Mole was sort of inspired by Bobby Drake or Iceman, right? So the Mole is to earth and stone what Iceman is to ice. And that's just the way it goes. Okay. So here we have his sheet open. Obviously you can change the hero name at will by just typing over it. The identity, we'll enter that there. It's Billy Burrows. Yes, Billy Burrows. And then this is just another text field. First appearance, Champions #1. That's the game we were playing back then. All right, so here's where we start seeing some real functionality. First, we have the tier level. Now in Stalwart 85, the Game Master sets a tier at which characters will be created. Player characters will be created. And typically, that would be the super tier, which has a D10 attached to it. So the way you would select that is by changing that D6 that is currently the default on the sheet. I'm about to change that to a D10. However, before I do, I want to tell you that there are other things that are tied to that tier. So for example, HP right now is tier plus might. So that's D6 and D6, that's 12 total. You see that HP has a maximum value of 12. Similarly, your SP is essentially your tier divided by 2, which is 3. By the way, that also is your level, right? So level in this game is tier divided by 2. That would be 3. And then here next to level, you see that there is another value, which is half level, which in the game is often used when figuring out the capabilities of certain gifts and powers. Okay. So that's just to say, when I change the tier here to a D10, you're going to see all of those values change. Here it goes. I'm picking a D10. Bam, it's all changed. The level changed to 5. The half level changed to 2 because it rounds down. And you'll notice that HP, the maximum value, changed to 16 and SP changed to 5. You'll notice that the current values did not change. And so that's just the way the sheet works. You're going to have to manually change the current values. And that's okay. That's easy enough to do. All right. So then we're going to move to the movement section here. And this is just a text field. The default run speed is 30. So here I can put run 30 if I want. But, you know, my character might have other forms of travel like flight and whatever feet per action. You know, you could just enter that in manually. Okay, before I move down to traits, let me actually talk about something that I skipped over with tier, but it's something that's shared by both the tier and the traits, okay? And that something is these negative and positive values that you see next to it. Sometimes in this game, your tier, or at least the effective value of your tier, might change. up or down. It's either buffed by something or it's debuffed by something. Same with your traits, right? You might get hit by a power thief or something like that. Your might drop or something like that. So for that reason, we have this plus and minus. If I hit the negative, right, you'll see that the tier or whatever trait that I'm working with will drop by 1, right? So there you go. You see the D8, that D10 is now going to function as a D8, right? I could also buff it, right? So now it's functioning as a D12. That means that any rolls that I make with this will be, you know, the sheet will recognize that the value has changed and it will roll with the new die. Okay. So that is a bit of functionality that I'm happy that I got in there. And you'll see that the might and mind and power and reflex, they all have that same option to buff or debuff those values. Okay, so that's fantastic. I think might, mind, power, and reflex, those all function the same as tier. You select whatever die is appropriate for your character based on what you roll and how you're assigning them, and the values change. And these are all rollable, and I'll show you how they're all rollable in a second. Now, one thing that you might have noticed there, and if you didn't, I'll tell you about it, is that endure, focus, force, and evade are all tied to might, mind, power, and reflex. So these all start at a default of 3 because that's just how the sheet is set, right? D6 with a value of 3 for the figured values there. But I changed my the mole's might to D8. So his endure appropriately jumped to 4 because these values are all the trait divided by 2. Okay. If I buff it to a D10, you'll see that it temporarily raises to 5. If I debuff it, it will drop back to 4, right? So all that same functionality that you saw for tiers. Now that I've shown you all of this stuff, let me show you how it's rollable. So for that, I'm going to go over to the chat box. Oops, there we go, the chat box. And I'm going to say, okay, we have here a tier of D10. Tier is what you would use to roll to hit. So I'm going to roll my super button here, and you'll see that I get a dialog box. Right here, you can enter your target number or your difficulty target, and typical difficulty target for many things might be 4. So I'm going to put a 4 in there, and I'm just going to hit roll, and there it goes. You'll see that the mole rolled a D10 as he should, and he got a 6. He beat his difficulty target of 4, so it's a successful roll, and it'll tell you there success versus a DT4. Okay, let's do another one, and this time I'm going to do a few things differently. So I'm going to say, okay, we're going to make a mind check, and I'm going to go ahead and roll mind. Okay, now the target here, we're going to say the target is 8. And I'm rolling a D6, so you can tell what's going to happen, but I'm doing that for a reason. Let me show you another added functionality. Stalwart 85 has edge, plus edge, minus edge, right? And this is basically advantage and disadvantage from like 5th edition, right? So that'll roll 2 dice, and if it's plus edge, you keep the highest. If it's minus edge, you keep the lowest. So let's roll plus edge, hit roll. And you'll see there, it's going to tell you rolled a 6 and you rolled a 1. It was plus edge though, so it's going to keep the 6. 6, the best I could possibly roll, but my target was an 8, so I failed. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to show you another bit of functionality. You see that SP right next to it? It's asking me, do you want to use an SP, which is a Stalwart Point. Stalwart Points are like hero points in other systems. So they're a resource that depletes. But in this case, if this roll was really, really important to me and I want to make it, I would hit, yes, I want to use an SP. So I would click it. And you'll see in a moment that my SP of 5 is going to drop by 1, right? So I click it, my SP drops to 4, but it rolled that die for me. It added 2 to the 6 that I had rolled previously, and I have an 8. I succeeded, just barely, but I succeeded, right? So that's another nice little added bit of functionality there. Now let me show you something about how gifts work. So here I go. Gifts are essentially powers plus in this game. I'm going to add a gift. So you'll see that it opens up as an editable field. And I'm going to click the edit button here to open up the dialog box. And here you'll see that I have a few options. I could put, for example, 1d12 there, which is just an action formula. Actually, let's put 1d10 because let's say that this is an attack and I know that my tier is 1d10. So I'm going to put 1d10 there to hit. And let's say that my attack does 1d8 plus 3. Okay. Now you would know how much damage and what stat you need to hit because you're looking up the power. Right now I'm just entering values without using any real numbers. I'm just entering whatever number to show you how the sheet works. Okay, so let's just say I'm entering that stuff. Okay, so now I'm gonna close it and the sheet will remember. So if I come back over here and I hit the roll button for the gift, you'll see that it'll roll it. Let's say that I'm targeting a foe and the foe has an evade of 6. So my target number is going to be 6 and I'm going to roll. Okay, here we go. Look, I got a success because I rolled a 10 and the DT was 6. So that's perfect. It is giving me the option to use a Stalwart Point for purposes of increasing my chance to hit. But I don't need that, so I'm not going to. But look what happened here. First of all, I didn't roll too badly. I rolled a 5 plus 3 for a total of 8 here. But let's say this was a really important blow that I wanted to make. You'll notice that it's asking me whether I want to spend a Stalwart Point on damage. And I really want to make this blow count. So I'm going to say yes, I'm going to do that. So I already have 4 Stalwart Points left because I already used one earlier. Now I'm going to blow another one. So it dropped to 3 over here on the sheet. But you'll see that I rolled a 5 on the Stalwart die, and that makes this 13 points of damage as opposed to what I had rolled before, right? Which was 8, right? It was 8. Okay, so that's just showing you that the Stalwart Points can be used for both your chance to hit and also for your chance to deal damage, right? And also, I want to go back into the dialog box for the gift. I want to point out that these also have like there's a damage option here, which is what I use for that, but you can also put like soak, right? Which is an ability that you have if you have the power. I think it's impervious. I don't remember. Yeah, it's impervious. And I could put 1d12 there for soak if that would be the value. And let's see what happens. Actually, I haven't tested this yet. Let's see. Make this 4. Yeah, it worked. Okay, so there you see that I rolled a 7 on my soak, right? Again, it would let me blow a Stalwart Point if I wanted to on improving that to a 13. Okay, now typically you wouldn't have something that had both a damage die and a soak die. I'm just showing you how the fields work. But yeah, you can see that since I did put all 3 effects in that one power, it rolled all 3 and it gave me the option to use a Stalwart Point for all 3. And that option, that effect box down here where you can kind of define whatever effect it is other than damage will work in different ways. So I could put soak and let's say I put duration here, right? And then I put 5 rounds. If I then roll that, let's see, it expresses the 5 rounds as one of the effects of that power, right? So I included 2 effects text fields there so that you can use them for different aspects of powers that you might have. I think 2 will probably cover most powers just fine. Okay, so is there anything else that I need to show you under gifts? Yes, there's 2 more things. One, you could type in the full power description into the description field there. So let me just type this power is awesome. Yeah, awesome. If you do that, it will express right under the gift This is not a requirement, but for those of you who like to see the full description for your power, you could enter that stuff in there and have it there. And it'll take a paragraph or whatever and expand if you really, really want that. There's another thing I want to show you in that dialog box, and that is that there's a formula reference here, which is completely optional, but it can be pretty powerful. So for example, I entered a 1d10 to hit with this gift, this generic gift, because I know that you use tier to attack, and the mole has a tier of 10. However, the problem with entering D10 there, at 1d10 there, is that what if I buff or debuff the value of the tier? This action formula is not going to pick that up. If I want it to, if I want it to have that level of sensitivity to the way that the stats are changing, instead of entering 1d10, I can open up this formula reference down here. And if I look over here, I see, okay, dice variables at tier dot die. Okay, so instead of typing D10, I can just copy that, enter it into the action formula, and now you see that it's actually tailored to run, or it's specified to run according to the value that's being used for tier, right? So I will just close that out, and now if I drop my tier down to D4 for whatever reason, oh, actually, let me do that using the buff debuff, sorry, the buff debuff buttons here. So I'm going to drop down my tier to D4. Now, if I roll to hit, you will see that, yeah, it rolled at tier and it rolled a 4, the maximum that I could roll, but it's tied to the new value, right? So there are all sorts of different formula that you can explore using that are listed in that formula reference. Again, it's not necessary, but it's something that you can do if you want to really use the sheet to its fullest. A few more things to go here. This game also has tags. So tags are little perks that you get. You get a certain number depending on your tier when you make your character. And if I add a tag, they're usually +1 to something else, right? So this will work. For example, the mole's endure right now is a 4. If I type endure +1 and let it go, you'll see that his endure just went up to 5. And there's a little note right next to it that says +1 from tags. So a nice little thing. And this will work for everything. It'll work for hit points. It'll work for stalwart points, because those are all ways that you can add to the character in that way. So that's the tags have full functionality. And then there's limitations. Limitations come in a couple of flavors. There is the minor one that gives you a +1 gift or tag, and the major one that gives you a +2 gift or tag. It has unique GM defined one there. I should probably take that off because, you know, when the GM defines it, it's either going to be a minor or a major, and there's no list of tag of limitations to pick. You just pick the. I mean, there is a list in the book, but this doesn't have a drop-down menu that specifies those, so I don't really need that last category. I might take it out in an update, but you know, you just type whatever it is. So my new limitation is, I don't know, enemy. And then you can type out the details here, you know, hunted by Dr. I know that's all champions terminology, but hunted by Dr. Doom. And there you go. You've defined your limitation. Easy enough. Purpose, you just type whatever your purpose is there and you're good to go. That's most of what I have to show you, but not all. There are a few more things. Over here, you can, of course, enter an image. Easy enough. You just have to upload an image to Foundry and then select it here. You just click on this box and it'll open up all the options that you have on your system. Pick it and save it, and you have an image. The quick reference table just repeats that he's super tier and that the descriptor for that tier is incredible. But there is something important here that's in addition, and that is the number of actions that Mole gets, right? So as a 5th level character or a super tier character, he can take 2 full actions without any minus. But if he goes to 5 total actions, which is his maximum, any action that he takes is going to be at -D after -1D. So it'd be a debuff after the first 2 actions, right? So that is mentioned there. And then we have this one more little section here, which is if he gets dropped down to 0 hit points, or HP, they're not hit points, I forget what they're actually called in the game, but if he gets dropped down to 0 HP, he has been felled. And you would say, I've been felled once, and you'd click the plus box and you see now it's 1 out of 2 maximum times that he can be felled. Then you can start making felling checks, right? So next round, he makes a felling check to see if he bounces back. I think the target number on that is 4, so I'm going to hit roll. Oh no, he rolled a 3, so he didn't make it. So that means that 1 out of 3 fails. So the next round, he would roll again. Let's see if he makes it this time. The difficulty is 4. Let's roll again. He made it this time. So it tells you he rises and rejoins at 9 hit points, which is half his maximum hit points, right? If he and you'll notice that the consecutive fails drops back down to 0 because he made it. Now, if he had failed 3 times, he would have gotten a notification that he has been defeated and he can no longer make any more felling rolls. Similarly, if he gets felled twice, and I'm about to hit the plus sign, so it'll show that he's reached his maximum times felled, you're going to see that he's going to get that same notification. Mole has been felled 2 out of 2 times. He is defeated. Okay. So just a nice little felling tracker there. It's a little, a nice mechanic that, the game has. And then there's a section for notes. Okay. So that's it. That's how this sheet works. I'm going to perhaps make this available as a free resource for anybody who wants it, if Dr. Deasing gives me the okay. So I'll keep you all posted on that. Okay. Now, oh, actually, there's a couple more things that I want to show you before I sign off. Before I show them to you, though, it's probably a good time to pause and say, if you think this is cool and you want to see other stuff that I create, please go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon to keep up to date. Okay. Here are the last few little things. 1, there is a lock button up here. It defaults to being unlocked, but there's a lock button up here so you can shut down the sheet and you don't accidentally delete anything. You'll notice that when it's unlocked, you get these delete boxes here and the edit boxes that appear. And I've had players in play like accidentally hit those and delete a power in the middle of play. So when you're ready to play, you can lock it, and that means that you won't accidentally delete anything. So just a minor thing about this sheet. And then something else that I forgot to mention is that we don't just have a hero/villain sheet. We also have, if we want to create actors, we can go to pick an NPC sheet, which is, I'm gonna put Lois Lane. Okay. And the NPC sheet is very similar to the hero sheet, but it's more slim, trimmed down version of that. And then we also have, if we want to create a new actor, we have a vehicle sheet as well. So Mole Mobile, he never had a Mole Mobile, but let's just say he has one now. And that is a sheet that will express stats in the way that vehicles do in the game. So there's that. Here is Justicar, who's a character in one of my campaigns, fully filled out so you can see what it would look like. There are his powers with all the power information written down, a full set of tags. So this is what a character would look like. Yes, this cute, beautiful image here was created by Dr. Deasing himself as part of the Kickstarter benefits that I got when I backed this great game. So anyway, that's what a character would look like in the end. So that's all I've got for today. I do want to say that using Claude AI to build this Stalwart 85 sheet has emboldened me to create more resources like this for other games that don't already have sheets available for them. And of course, that means that I'm working on a sheet like this for Heroes Unbound, and I'm really excited with the way that that's developing. So I will share that with you once it's ready. In the meantime, I thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, I wish you good health. I wish you good cheer. I wish you good gaming. Goodbye.